Hi everyone, and welcome back to my channel and another video in the series that is all about giving our muscles some love after working out, maybe lifting weights, or maybe even if you are somebody who is stressed out, spending a lot of time at a desk or running around all day and you find yourself to be a little sore. So today we are going to be focusing again on the legs and making sure that we're giving the entirety of our legs some love and stretch. So we'll be doing stretches that are going to cover the hamstrings, the quads, and the calves. And this is one of my favorite series of poses. It's a low lunge series, and I do this almost after every gym session and often in my regular yoga practice. So these are some of my favorite poses because I think they're really effective and they're really easy to do and they flow together really well. So that's what we're going to be focusing on today. Before we get started, one thing that you might want for this series is a couple of yoga blocks. So I talked about this in some of my other videos. If you have yoga blocks, great, go ahead and grab those. If you don't though, you can always grab a couple of books or something like that. But if you have neither, no worries, I will walk you through it and it'll be all right and totally fine. So if you have something, go ahead and grab that. Make sure you have your mat laid out and we will go ahead and get started. So for our series today, we're going to come into a low lunge. And you can either come into this from tabletop. So I talked about tabletop in a couple of other videos. You can always start here if you'd like to, or if you are familiar with downward dog, you can always do downward dog and come into a low lunge from that. But I'm going to show you from tabletop position for today, but you go ahead and decide what works for you. So we'll go ahead and come into either tabletop or downward dog. I'm going to start with my right side, so go ahead and pick a side, and then we're just going to pick that leg up and bring it through our arms and up towards the top of the mat. So as you come up and have your spine nice and long, what you want to do to make sure that your front foot is in the right position is just make sure that your knee is right over your ankle. So that'll give you a good sense of where your foot should be in relation to your back leg. What we don't want to do is kind of overstretch ourselves to where our knee is like way back here, because then we're not going to get the stretch that we want. But we don't want our knee to be way over our ankle, because then that's going to put strain on the joints, and we don't want that either. We don't want to have pain in the joints afterwards. So go ahead and find whatever distance your foot needs to be to make sure that you have a straight line here. And then what we'll do to just get started is place both of our hands on top of that knee and just start to lean into this pose. So what we want to be thinking about is making sure that our hips are in line, not having one hip totally in front of the other, that we kind of suck this leg back in and have our hips in line. And then once you've done that, we're thinking about kind of letting the back hip kind of sink down towards the mat. And what you might be feeling is a big stretch in the back hamstring, or quad rather, and the hip flexor. So we're stretching this back leg out here, the top part of the thigh, and we're really getting a stretch. You might also feel it in the leg that is forward, maybe in the hamstring area, maybe in the glute a little bit, but we're just starting to get settled in here. Now once you feel nice and settled, we'll go into a twisted lunge. This is just going to take our stretch and bring it a little bit farther. So you can do this in a couple of ways. One of the ways that you can do this is you can just take your opposite hand. So again, I have my right knee in front here, so I'm going to take my left hand, bring it to the outside of the knee. And then I'm going to take my right hand and start to reach back for the back leg, and I'm opening and twisting my chest towards the right as I'm doing this. So that's way one. The other way that you can do this is you can bring your hands together in a prayer position, elbows out to either side, and then you can actually twist the chest towards the right, and then hook the left elbow onto the outside of the knee. And if you do that, you can press your hands in toward each other and then press the elbow onto the outside of the knee. And we're doing kind of a opposite action here, really pushing and opening up the chest. So you can decide what way works for you. I'm gonna stick with this one for today. I like the way this one feels. And as you're twisting, you might just notice that there's an even bigger stretch happening in this back leg here. So we're just kind of deepening the stretch a little bit. Make sure that you are breathing. You know that I talk about this if you've watched my other videos. Our breath is so important. Our muscles need that oxygen. Go ahead and take one more inhale. And on the exhale, we will untwist and come back to center. Hands come onto the top of the knee. Okay, so go ahead and for the next move here, we're gonna take the left hand and bring it down to the mat. So this is gonna be the opposite hand that you have from the foot that is in front. And then we're gonna go ahead and do another stretch that's gonna help out the quad back here. So go ahead and start to bend the knee and bring the foot closer to the butt. And then with your right hand, we're going to reach back towards that foot. And if you can, you're going to reach and you're going to grab the top of the foot and start to bring it in towards the hips even more. If you've gotten here and it feels good, what you can do to go a little bit farther is to start to twist and bring the chest straight forward so you're squaring off your shoulders to the front of the mat. And then you can kind of do that settling in motion where you are bringing the hips forward a little bit. And that's going to stretch the quad even more. And we're thinking about bringing that foot in towards the hips as much as we can, but not overstraining. We don't want to push ourselves too far. Now, if you are having a hard time reaching the foot and you just feel like you can't grab it, then don't worry, just go ahead and put it down. We don't want to hold it up because then we might start cramping. We don't want that. See if that's the case, you can just bring your hands to either side here of your foot in front and just kind of settle in a little bit farther. Don't feel like you have to overdo it, over grab. Just listen to the body. Do what feels right. So if you have a hold of the foot, we're going to go ahead and release and let it come down nice and slow. Don't slingshot it down. Just nice and slow. Bring it back down to the mat. Hand comes forward and comes to outside of the foot. Alright guys, so we're going to do a few more here. So for the next move, go ahead and take your right hand and bring it to the inside of the foot. So both of my hands are going to be on the inside of my foot. And then we'll take the foot and start to walk it out until the outside edge of the foot is in line with the edge of the mat. So we're opening up our stance a little bit here. Opening up the hips. And you can stay here if this feels good. You can always kind of rock back and forth. I kind of like to do the rocking motion. I feel like it just loosens my hips up and feels nice. Or what you can do is start to let the knee fall off to the side and the foot's going to come and rest on the outside edge. We're supporting ourselves, keeping ourselves up with our hands here. And you can do that rocking motion kind of side to side, like what I was just talking about here as well, if that feels good. We're just opening the hip up a little bit here, loosening things up, maybe feeling a stretch in the outside of the thigh, maybe the butt even. Make sure that you're still breathing. on your next inhale, we'll go ahead and pick the knee back up, bringing the foot back down so we're bracing ourselves on the bottom of the foot again. And then we can go ahead and come back up a little bit here. We put the hands on the knee. So for the next one that we're going to be doing, we're going to be coming into what's called lizard pose. And this is going to be a big stretch for this leg, especially in the hamstring part for sure. This is the one that you might want blocks of some sort. So I will grab mine and show you what I mean here. So if you have blocks, just stick them in front of you on the inside of the foot where your hands were placed whenever we did that last move with our hip opener here. You can place your books here if that's what you have as well. And then what we'll do is we'll just come down to forearms. So forearms and elbows are going to come to the blocks or your books. And you might immediately start to feel a stretch in the inside here and maybe the lower part. Even this back quad again. Now if you're not quite feeling it here, you can just remove the blocks and come down to your elbows completely and feel a big stretch that way. Either way, whether you have the blocks or you don't, what we want to be thinking about is opening the chest up. That's going to definitely increase the stretch for us rather than kind of hunching the back over. We want to open the chest almost like we were pulling our chest through the shoulders with our forearms with that kind of pulling motion, like we were pulling our elbows in towards our torso and opening the chest up through them. That's really going to increase the stretch. Now, if you don't have blocks or books that you're using today, or placing your elbows down onto blocks feels like it's too much, what you can do instead is just place your hands down here and do the same thing. So thinking about pulling the mat towards our torso, opening the chest up through, that's also going to give you a stretch. So whatever you have available and whatever feels good today, just go with that. Let's hold this for one more breath. And then on the next inhale, what we'll do is we'll pick up the right hand and we'll start to walk the foot back into the position that we had in low lunge. And you can come up a little bit here before we go into the next pose. So for our next pose, we're going to do a half split. And this is really going to get the lower part of our leg here. So again, if you have blocks, feel free to use those. They're a great tool here. And if you are going to use them, just have them on either side of your foot. And that's what you're going to place your hands on. And then what we're going to do is you can either leave the foot where it is, and then you'll just lean back and come onto the heel, and there's our half split. What we'll be doing is just leaning our torso over the leg, kind of like what we did in the forward folds video that I did for legs in the first video. So we're thinking about that action of bringing our stomach closer to the thigh, bending at the hip, really getting a nice stretch in the back part of our leg. Not trying to get our head down to our knee, but rather the stomach to the thigh. So like I said, what you can do is you can just leave your foot where it is and bring it up to the heel. Or what you can do to get a bigger stretch, to go a little bit deeper, is to just kind of scoot the foot. I use my toes to kind of walk them forward. And you can walk them out closer to the front edge of your mat. And then whenever you get to a spot that feels good, you can come up onto the heel, leaning back. And all that's going to do is it's just going to have a bigger distance between your legs. And so it'll be a deeper stretch in the thigh. So we're basically just getting closer to a full split when we do that. But wherever you have your foot, the big thing is just thinking about that forward fold action, making sure that our hips are in line. So we're making sure that instead of doing this with our hips and having one way in front of the other, that wherever our foot is, we're more in line, square hips, thinking about the stomach to the side, and we're leaning forward over that leg. And again, you can have the blocks if you have blocks or books. If you don't though, you can just have your hands down on the mat. The blocks are just useful if you're a little bit tighter and this is more of a struggle. It just brings the mat up closer to you so you don't have to come down as far. This is a great one to just kind of personalize. Decide what feels good, what distance, the blocks or no blocks. Totally what is right for your body. Go ahead and take one more breath here. Exhaling all of it out. And then on our next inhale, we'll go ahead and start to rebend that front knee, having the foot come down onto the mat. And then we'll start to slide it back and we'll come back into tabletop, or if you prefer down dog, then go ahead and come back into down dog. We'll set our blocks to the side here. And then we're going to do the other side. So we've done the series on the right side, and so now we're going to switch and do the left side. We want to make sure that we do both sides, give both legs some love and stretch out and make sure that we're even and all loose and limber on both. So wherever you are, tabletop or downward dog, we'll start to bring the left foot forward. We'll pick it up, bring it in between the hands, and foot plants on the top part of our mat, and then we'll come up, hands on top of the knee here. Again, we're making sure that our foot is in a good place, so our knee and our ankle are in line. And we're making sure that our hips are nice and square. And once we've done that, then we can sink down, have this hip really open up, the quad and the hip flexor here. Really letting the muscles kind of start to melt and breaking up any tension and tightness that we might be feeling. So we'll go ahead and start doing our series. So we'll come into a twisted low lunge first. So again, you have those two options. You can either have your hands in prayer and twist that way, or you can just place opposite hand on the outside of the knee, and then the other one comes to the back leg. So whichever way you prefer, go ahead and decide, and we'll start to twist to the left this time. Keeping our chest nice and open, we're guiding our twist with our chest, not with our head. We don't want to overstrain the neck. We're opening up the back quad and we're twisting the back, not the neck. Go ahead and take one more breath here. Exhale. One more inhale. And on our exhale, we'll untwist and come back to center. Hands can go on top of the knee. Okay, so then we'll do our deeper quad stretch. So right hand comes down to the mat, or opposite hand from the leg you have in front. We'll start to bend at the knee in the back, and then left hand comes back and reaches for the top of the foot. See how that feels. And if you want to go a little bit farther, start to square the shoulders off so you're facing the front of the mat. Now, if at any point during our series here, your knee that you're supporting yourself on back here starts to hurt and doesn't feel too good, what you can do is grab yourself a blanket and just tuck that underneath the knee, and that'll give it a little bit of padding. Even a pillow or something like that. I know For some people, their knees just do not agree with low lunges and the series that we're doing here. So if you're that person, then maybe grab something, some kind of soft, cushy support that you can put underneath your knee back there, and that's going to help a lot. So we're going to take one more breath. On our inhale, or rather on our exhale, we will release the back leg, not slingshotting, but letting it come down nice and soft. Front hand comes back up to the mat here. Okay, so then we'll start to walk the foot out towards the edge of the mat. Both hands are in the center here on the inside of the foot. We're walking it out until the outside edge comes to the edge of the mat. And then we'll do that hip opener. So again, if you want to, you can always start here and just kind of do that rocking back and forth. That'll just start to loosen the hip up a little bit, widen it out. And then if you would like, you can let the knee start to come off to the side, go up onto the edge of the foot, and let that knee kind of hang off to the side. Rocking back and forth if you'd like. That feels good. Okay, next inhale, we'll go ahead and plant the foot back down, knee comes back into the center and straight up. And then we'll start to prepare for lizard pose. So again, if you have the blocks, you can grab those. You can grab books. If you have neither, then you can decide what you would like to do. If you'd like to stay up on your hands, or if you want to come down to your forearms and elbows down to the mat, whatever works for you. You have the blocks. You're putting those where your hands were on the inside of the foot, and then coming down to forearms and elbows on top. And again, we're thinking about opening the chest up, almost like we're going to pull them through the shoulders, pulling the blocks back, our elbows back towards our torso. Almost like we were doing cow pose, a little bit like a baby cow pose. If you watched one of my other videos, we went over cat-cow. So just maybe a little bitty arch in the back, pulling that chest through, opening it up. On our next inhale, wherever you are, we're going to go ahead and come back up to hands. You can place your blocks to the side here. And then we'll walk the foot back in towards the center where it was for our low lunge, and hand comes to the outside. So we have a hand on either side of the foot. And then we'll start to prep for our half split. So again, you're deciding how far you want your foot to be, whether that's just where it currently is, and you'll lean back and pick your foot up so you're resting on the heel. Again, you have the options of the block if you'd like to do that. You can slide the foot out a little bit if that feels all right. Wherever you are, once you've decided how you want your setup to be, again, making sure that your hips are in line. So we have the leg that's out, kind of a little bit of a sucking in motion, like you're going to put the femur back into the hip socket. And then we're thinking about bringing the stomach closer to the thigh. If you'd like to, once you've done that action of trying to bring the stomach in towards the thigh, you can release the neck and the head down if you want to, if that feels more supportive and relaxing on the back of the neck, you're welcome to do that. We're just not trying to use the head to get ourselves even farther down. We're thinking about bending at the hip, kind of this forward crease fold motion, not bringing the head down to the knee. So we'll take a couple more breaths here, finding length with our inhales. Maybe a little more room to fold even more with our exhales. And then on your next inhale, we'll start to come up and re-bend that front knee so our foot gets planted back down on the mat. If you have blocks, you can set those aside. And then we'll plant our hands down on the mat on either side and start to bring that foot back either into tabletop or into downward dog. And wherever you are, you can just go ahead and place the hips down onto the heels and come into a kneeling position. All right, guys, so like I said, that's one of my absolute favorite sequences to do. I feel like it's super effective at really hitting the leg muscles, all of them, really getting into some of that deep muscle tension that might be going on. So, as we went through it, I'm sure you noticed there's a lot of ways that you can kind of customize this. You can play around with where the foot is and where your hands are and blocks and no blocks, all of that stuff. So feel free to use this. Like I said, I use this after almost every workout that I do, and oftentimes I throw it into my yoga practice as well. So you can use this, I recommend, as often as you would like, and you can play with how long you want the folds to be. If you hold it a little bit longer, you might notice that some of the muscles really kind of loosen up and the tension starts to break up, versus only holding it for maybe 10 seconds or so. I would encourage you to try to go a little bit longer and really kind of feel that melting sensation with the muscles. So yeah, I hope that this was helpful. I hope that you find that it helps loosen a lot of those muscles up and that you're able to throw it into kind of your daily either workout practice or a yoga flow if you're doing yoga at home. And if you have any questions, let me know down in the comments below. I'm happy to answer. I've mentioned this in other posts, but if you don't have blocks and you're interested in getting some for your home practice, I have some recommendations down in the description box below. So you can always check those out if you'd like to get some for yourself. And until next time, guys, thank you so much for joining me, and I will see you very soon.